Electric service is an important component of our daily lives. We discuss how Atlantic City Electric is assuring safe and reliable service while empowering our communities. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on Facebook and YouTube. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare. For more information, call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. We all depend on the lights turning on when we flick on the switch. Joining me is Kristen McAvoy. She is the Director of External Affairs for Atlantic City Electric to tell us more about their efforts to assure safe and reliable service. Kristen, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thanks for providing me the opportunity today to be here.
And safe and reliable service is something that we all need. Everyone depends on electricity. It's such vital, a big part of our lives. Tell me a little bit more about what Atlantic City Electric is doing to assure safe and reliable service.
Sure. At Atlantic City Electric, we serve over 570,000 customers. And we understand the critical role that we play in our customers' lives. Every day, people want to be able to rely on the power that we provide. And so it's important that we do that in a safe way and that we are being mindful of how our investments are building out that reliability and resiliency for our customers.
Tell me a little bit more about the difference that has made, right? I know that there's been a lot of investment in assuring transmission lines, distribution lines, substations, et cetera. What has netted as a result of that?
Sure. With the investments that Atlantic City Electric has made over the past several years, we have experienced the lowest frequency of outages in 2023 than we've ever experienced before, which means we are keeping our customers' power on and we're being reliable.
And of course, this climate change, we see more weather events taking place. So it's not just building it the same old way, right? It's using a little more modern technology, a little more upgrades to make sure we have that resiliency as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we have really taken a look at the whole grid, right? Because this is an interconnected grid. And so we have to be mindful of the investments that we're making are really going to strengthen that durability. And we've made several investments into our infrastructure, including projects out in Cape May substation, where that's going to build out the reliability for the Cape May and the surrounding areas of Cape May.
Tell me more about what you mean by interconnectability, right? They're interconnected, but how does that benefit? If you're doing a project here, how does that benefit the rest of the service territory?
Sure. So you also need to build in not just reliability and resiliency, you need to build in redundancy. And so there could be situations that you have a contingency plan in place should there be an outage of such magnitude, right? So for example, some of the upgrades that we do in our system, an example in Salem County, we recently did upgrades around the border of Salem County that were in Gloucester County. But in the event of a contingency, we would be able to leverage those substations and the energy coming from those substations to be able to supply Salem County residents with power should there be some sort of situation that requires contingency planning. So it really is about the overall strength of the grid.
And we do see that. I think there was a recent outage in Atlantic City where if you lose the whole substation, obviously you have customers out for a while, but if you're able to pick up the load from another source, that's where you're able to get those customers back in a lot sooner. So that's very critically important. So you have some examples of any major projects that are currently underway or just completed?
So recently we have completed in the Gloucester and Camden County areas a transmission project that was 10 miles of transmission line connecting Pine Hill to Monroe. And so that is going to reinforce the grid that we've been talking about and providing reliable power to our customers in Gloucester and Camden counties.
And just a full disclosure for the audience here, obviously we work together at Atlantic City Electric, and we know that just to make the distinction between transmission distribution, the transmission is basically the expressway, right? Your main highway, and then distribution is the side street, so to speak. So that's how we deliver electric to people's homes. So it's vitally important that you take care of the whole system, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Let's switch gears a little bit, because obviously it's not just building new transmission lines, replacing infrastructure that has aged out, but it's also maintaining that equipment. And I know that when we look at the differences between the shore communities and the western communities that we serve, there certainly are different challenges, aren't there?
Yes, there is. I mean, in the shore communities, we deal with the salt air, which is different than what we deal with out in the western part of the service territory. And I would say that as we make these investments, we're always being mindful to adopt best practices. So we're constantly looking at how can we improve the system through a best practice. If there is something that in particular can be adopted for salt erosion or things like that.
Yeah, and I know that you're also using modern equipment, right? I know there's equipment that you could put in place that lessen the number of people that are out if there's an event on a line. And that type of work continues to lessen the number of people that are impacted during an outage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There's equipment like reclosers where they can close a reclosure and block off maybe a certain amount of customers from experiencing the outage. So if there is an outage, the number of customers that are experiencing it is significantly reduced because we can cut off with the reclosure where that outage happens.
And I know that we had an outage in the Wildwoods with the whole substation that was lost. You know, we had contingencies in place to be able to pick up that load and get those customers on as quickly. And that work is still ongoing to refurnish that substation. Is that correct?
Yes, we're still rebuilding out some of the switching in that substation. And I would say that that's a great example of where contingency planning and redundancy is important on the barrier islands. And Wildwoods did experience that outage, but the amount of customers that we were able to pick up in a short amount of time was incredible because of the redundancy that has been built out on those barrier islands.
Now, are you looking ahead, right? We see development taking place, new housing starts. Are you planning ahead to assure that you continue to make those investments in upgrading substations or even creating new substations?
Sure, there's a whole planning process that goes into place, and I want to be clear that we have an obligation to serve customers, new businesses, and that takes some time because this isn't a situation where it's a build it and they will come, because we have to balance affordability for our customers and is that demand really going to be there if we build it out. So it's a whole planning process and it's really about balance. And I'll say that with that balance and having to build out the infrastructure as we see it coming on, it's important to also note that it takes time to build that infrastructure.
Oh, listen, this is great information. I do want to get into the affordability portion. That's a big piece, right? We all want the lights on, but we also want affordability as well, and we'll discuss that in a bit. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Kristen McAvoy. She is the Director of External Affairs at Atlantic City Electric. And Kristen, we were talking about how Atlantic City Electric is moving forward to invest in safe and reliable service. Very important for us. But affordability is just as critical. Tell me a little bit about that aspect and how you're helping customers to save.
Sure. And just before we get started down that path, just a little bit of education. So the projects that we were talking about in our prior segment is related to distribution and transmission projects. And there's another piece of the bill called supply, and that is not part of Atlantic City Electric. That is something that, will go out and get the generation that you need, but generation is owned by other providers out there. It's a deregulated market, so customers can shop for their energy provider, and that would come through the Atlantic City Electric bill. So based on that education, there really is some tools out there that customers can leverage so that they are, able to afford their bills through energy efficiency or budget billing tools. So those are the type of programs that we have out there that can really benefit customers to help reduce the amount of energy that they're using, to have an impact on that supply side as well.
Yeah, and as we talk about affordability, certainly making sure that you use less, because I know back in the day, my mother would yell at me for keeping the lights on, and right now my kids have the TV up in every room. It seems like we're a lot more wasteful in many ways, so it's getting back to the habit to conserve and be able to save on your electric bill. You mentioned about budget building. What is that about?
So budget billing is where it'll take the average usage over a 12-month period and bill you the same amount every month until you have a true up at the end. And there are points in there where it'll look to recalculate that figure, but for the most part, you would have consistent payments over the entire year with a small reconciliation at the end of it. And I think that that's important for customers that really want to be able to count on paying the same amount every single month. That really does help people with their budgets.
Helps managing your expenses as well, so that's great. Let's talk about energy efficiency, and I know there are a lot of tools out there to help you conserve not just your habits, but also making improvements in your home that could help you save electric. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So we do have some no-cost or low-cost energy efficiency tools, programs out there that customers can leverage. We have no-cost quick energy audits where someone can come out and do an audit of your home to see if there are ways that you can conserve energy. Having your kids shut off the lights when they leave it, right? That's one option. Right. But we also have Smart Energy Network now, where that really has opened up a wide variety of tools for customers to be able to manage their energy usage. They can figure out where they are using the most energy, if it's a time frame during the day. So I think this Smart Energy Network that has just been deployed over the last probably about 2.5 years is really going to make a difference in how customers can conserve energy, because they start to really get an understanding for what energy they're using.
And I know that while we're talking along those lines, that we did get smart meters. Is that a tool that could also help you conserve in terms of being able to manage your usage?
So there's, hourly usage features that customers can leverage to figure out if they are using their electricity at peaks during peak loads. So that's some options. But you had mentioned earlier about, what other programs are out there for customers. And, there are some potential appliance recycling options out there, HVAC and Energy Star rebates that some customers may qualify for discounts. So there's a bunch of different options out there where customers can leverage options to be more energy efficient.
And you mentioned the appliances. Some of the older appliances do use a lot of energy.
They do.
And you got the Energy Star type appliances now that could certainly help you conserve on your electric bill and significant savings. A lot of people still use incandescent light, although I went to the hardware store there, Lowe's. I didn't see any of them for sale. It looks like everything is LED now, so it's certainly smart to use those type of light bulbs instead of the old ones. And if you have the old ones, you want to replace them, correct?
Yes, definitely. You definitely want to get energy efficiency LED light bulbs. And then as you're transitioning into using the tools of the Smart Energy Network, there's other things that you can sign up for, like a high usage alert.
Oh.
So that's an option that you can sign up for. And then also monthly bill projections, so you start to understand where your bill may come in at the end of the month for those that are interested in being able to budget a little more closely on their energy usage.
And I guess there's a lot of smart things you could do in your home without even investing a lot of money. And certainly we know that it's not just turning off the lights when you're not using the lights, but certainly making sure that your highest expense are going to be winter and summer as far as the air conditioning or heating. So making sure that your house is pretty tight helps you conserve energy as well, correct?
That's correct. And you're making a really good point. We're coming off these shoulder months. Shoulder months are the spring and the fall time where you're not potentially using your heater or your air conditioning in your homes. And so as you're getting ready to transition into these winter months, this is when you're going to want to start to be proactive on steps that you can do for reducing higher usage in your home.
And again, we'll put up the website, but there's certainly information out there available for you to go in and take advantage of these energy efficiency programs. So, Kristen, affordability is really a two-parter, right? It's not just conserving, but also there might be customers who need energy assistance in helping to pay their bill. Tell me how you help in that regard.
Sure. At Atlantic City Electric, we remain committed to meeting our customers where they are. And a lot of times there's an opportunity for us to work with our community partners. We remain committed to working with them and provide energy assistance through our community partners.
And I know that here in South Jersey, the two prominent providers that do the intake for energy assistance is Gateway in the west and Ocean in the east. Is that still correct?
Yes, that's still correct.
And we'll put that information up on the screen as well. That's important. You could reach out to those agencies for help. And if you're falling behind and you get a notice for a disconnect, et cetera, what should you do?
They should call Atlantic City Electric's customer service and work with a representative that is committed to supporting our customers and coming up with plans for getting them through any sort of situation that may be arising for them.
And, a lot of customers that just wait to the very end, and certainly you don't want to be cut off. It's always good to communicate, correct?
Yes, communicating early is key for us to being able to manage any kind of situation that is arising for a customer. So as soon as they are starting to experience something, call Atlantic City Electric, reach out to us, and we can work on different options available through the billing system.
So, Kristen, I want to change gears a little bit. Talk about how Atlanta City Electric is also empowering our communities and a little bit about the emergency preparedness. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
When we think about Atlantic City Electric, what we do is electric. Who we are is what we're doing today. We're building this phenomenal playground that's going to be a safe space for all our children and families to convene.
I'm really excited about the investment that Atlantic City Electric has put into the community. That really says to me that they care about their neighbors and they care about the community.
It's like a breath of fresh air to the younger generation. It's a local park that they'll be able to bring their children to and play safely and enjoy it for years to come.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Kristen McAvoy, Director of External Affairs for Atlanta City Electric. And Kristen, we talked about the importance of safe, reliable electric service. We talked about affordability and all the tools that are available for that. Let's talk about the companies empowering the communities, right? Which is a nice term. What are you doing to empower our communities?
So at Atlantic City Electric in 2023, we contributed over $1.7 million to nonprofit organizations. And we also have our employees go out and volunteer in the communities where we live and where we serve. And when we think about all of the opportunities and collective volunteer time that the employees have given over the course of a year, they add up to, over 10,000 hours for giving back to the communities.
And that's so important. Certainly that employees are part of the community, many of them serving in fire departments as volunteer firefighters or in different boards and organizations. It's important to give back. So Atlanta City Electric, I know, encourages that very much. Let's talk about some of the major sponsorships or the major initiatives that you took place this past year.
So some of the bigger initiatives that took place this year is really assessing underserved communities. And when we looked at some of the underserved communities, what we could do to start to revitalize and lift those communities. In particular, in Paulsboro, New Jersey, we partnered with Kaboom, who's a nonprofit organization that brings equitable play to underserved communities. And then there was also a nonprofit community partner that helped support the three of us kind of coming together and building a playground for Paulsboro so that they could start to revitalize their community. They had previously torn down a playground and then lost the funding to rebuild that playground back up. And that was an opportunity for Atlantic City Electric to come in. We had 150 volunteers on one day, and we built an entire playground.
Yeah, having participated in that, it was such an amazing event, seeing all the employees, community members come out together and do that volunteer work, and it's a beautiful playground. Let's talk about some of the other aspects of some of the engagement, particularly let's talk about the workforce and some of the things you're doing to encourage a future workforce.
Sure. So workforce development isn't only about, having somebody boots on the ground ready now. It's really about starting at earlier ages. And when Atlantic City Electric looked at some opportunities for that, we had an opportunity to partner with the Rowan College of South Jersey out of the Cumberland campus. And we were able to create a Accelerate was the name of the program, STEM program. It was about 2-week summer camp where we had high school students come out to the summer camp and learn about industries and careers in the energy industry. And it was a great opportunity for students that are in high school to realize that they have a path forward. If it wasn't a traditional 4-year school that they were going to go to, then they had the opportunity to see what a 2-year community college looks like for them. It was really a great opportunity to get the younger workforce educated about opportunities that they have.
Yeah, very important, certainly. So, Kristen, let's talk about the environment. I know Atlanta City Electric is also very engaged in preserving the environment. Tell me about some of the stuff you're doing in that regard.
Sure. So we just spoke about students from the Workforce Development Accelerate program. So let's also talk about what we're doing for students in the environmental area. We host a student climate challenge program, and it may look a little different this year in 2025 for the upcoming competition than it has in the previous years, but we are excited to have this opportunity to touch more schools in 2025 for this climate challenge. And it's an opportunity for the students to really get engaged in how they can have an impact on the environment. And we have a fun competition along the way.
And they have fun and are learning something about the environment as well. So obviously a lot going on in that space in terms of empowering the communities. Let's switch gears a little bit because one of the things we want to talk about is emergency preparedness, right? We all, luckily did not have a major hurricane this year, did not have a major event like that, but we do want to be prepared. And what is Atlanta City Electric doing to prepare for those type of events?
Sure. So let me just take a step back. While it was great that we didn't have those type of situations arise, we did experience a new situation. We experienced this past fall extreme drought, and we had more wildfires in our service territory than we typically have in the past. Now, we're part of the Pine Barrens in South Jersey, and that does tend to have wildfires every year, but it was the amount of wildfires that New Jersey was experiencing and how many were hitting our service area. So while we can sit and talk about, storms hitting our system and all of the work that we do to make sure we have resiliency built into our storms, we now have to expand our emergency preparedness to incorporate what happens in the event of a wildfire being on our system. And so we have incorporated that into our emergency management programs, and we are in constant communications with our OEMs. Now we're talking about storms and hurricanes. We're having to transition the conversation to wildfires as well.
And I know that the planning for an event doesn't happen the day before the event, right?
That's right.
Is year-round planning, is that correct?
Yes, there's year-round planning. There's different drills that we participate in. We're engaged with our OEMs, our Office of Emergency Managements that each of the counties have, so that we are staying closely coordinated across our service territory with the first responders.
And I know the courage and effort that our employees put into making sure that they are out there helping to restore customers is just incredible. Everyone at Atlanta City Electric has that second role, is that correct?
Helping? Yes. So the men and women in this organization are extremely dedicated to providing the power, and they live and breathe that. Everybody in the organization has a second role. When a storm happens, everyone is activated and in place. They've gone through prior training to be experienced in that role so that we are restoring power as quickly, safely that we can in the communities. And all of the linemen and the troublemen, they are dedicated and working around the clock when we have situations like that arise.
So if you have an outage, what's the first thing you should do?
First thing you should do is go to your app and report it, or call Atlantic City Electric to report it.
Well, I think this is great information, certainly, and we'll put some of that information up on the screen as well for folks to be able to access the app and certainly the number to call. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for being here on Latino Motion. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us once again here on Latino Motion.